Hello everyone. Hi. Welcome to Inspire Academy. Let me introduce myself. My name is Neha Rajiv Sawant. I am your science and technology teacher. So today let's begin with chapter number 9 of Science 1, which is titled as Carbon Compounds. Before we beginning with the chapter, let us try to read what are the inner contents of it. The first content is bonds in carbon compounds, followed by carbon, which is a versatile element and is available in many other forms. Third is hydrocarbons and functional groups and homologous series with respect to carbon atom. Then how to label them, how to name these carbon atoms, which can be studied by studying the nomenclature of carbon compounds, then by studying the chemical properties of carbon compound, and what are the different applied macromolecules and polymers which are made because of carbon compound. So the first content is the bond present in carbon compounds. Overall, any carbon compound or chemistry in that matter is subdivided into two categories based on presence or absence of carbon atoms. Those two categories or two types are organic compounds and inorganic compounds. Organic compounds are the group of a compounds which has carbon atom as the main constituent element. That is, within any of the compound, if there is a availability of carbon atom, then that compound is called as organic. Similarly, if in that compound if carbon atom is absent, then such type of compounds is called as inorganic compounds. Therefore, a whole chemistry can be classified into two major groups, that is organic compounds which has carbon as a constituent element and inorganic compound in which the constituent element is different than carbon. So what exactly bonds are present in carbon compound? We will be studying these in the first section, that is bonds in carbon compounds. As we know, the most common bond is the ionic bond. So the ionic bond is nothing but a bond between two compounds that form a single group. So when these compound or these group, when it dissociates, that is when it breaks down, it gives rise to different kind of ions. So the ions that are hold together and the bond between holding these ions is called as ionic bond, and the compound is called as ionic compounds. For example, we know NaCl. NaCl is nothing but sodium chloride, which is a common table salt which we use at home while preparing food. So when these common salt, when dissolved in water, the bond between the sodium and chloride, that is NaCl, breaks down and gives rise to formation of two ions, that is sodium ion and chloride ion. So the bond between these sodium ion and chloride ion, which holds together as a formation of NaCl compound, is the ionic bond, and the NaCl, since it has the ionic bond, the compound is called as ionic compounds. These ionic compounds have high melting point. Melting point as in the temperature at which a compound starts melting, and boiling point means a temperature at which a compound starts boiling. That since we know that water starts boiling at 100 degrees Celsius, it means a water requires 100 degree temperature to start boiling. Therefore, 100 degrees Celsius is called as a boiling point of water, whereas melting point of an ice is above 4 degrees Celsius. It means an ice, in order to start melting, it requires temperature above 4 degrees Celsius. Therefore, 4 degrees Celsius is called as a melting point of ice. Similarly, even ionic compounds have different melting and boiling points which are higher than any other compounds. It is because it requires energy to break the ionic bonds between these compounds. Therefore, ionic compounds have high melting point and high boiling point. And as we know, an electricity to flow, it requires certain ions or electrons to carry the charge. So even ionic compounds are capable of carrying electricity when they are in molten or dissolved state. That is, if we dissolve a common table salt in an water and we insert into electrodes which supply the electric current into the water, then the electric current will pass between the water with the help of these sodium and chloride ions. Therefore, any ionic compound have high melting point, have boiling point, and they are the good conductors of electricity. The melting and boiling point of carbon compounds are found to be less than 300 degrees Celsius. That is, it means the intermolecular attractive force are very weak. So here in the image alongside we can see few of the ionic compounds with its melting point and boiling point. And as we can see, they all are lying below 300 degrees Celsius as mentioned over here. The first example is methane. The chemical formula of methane is CH4. That is, since it has carbon, therefore it is an organic compound. Therefore, the melting point of methane is minus 183 degrees Celsius, which is lesser than 300 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point is minus 162 degrees Celsius, which is again lesser than 300 degrees Celsius. Similarly, other examples of ionic compounds are ethanol, chloroform, and acetic acid. As I spoke earlier that in order to electricity to flow within electrodes, they require certain molecules which can carry the charge on it, and these charged molecules are nothing but ions. Therefore, the electrical conductivity of carbon compound like glucose and urea are not electrically conductors. Like, since we know when compounds like glucose and urea break down, they don't form ions, and since they don't form ions, they are the bad conductors of electricity. From this we conclude that most of the carbon atoms or most of the carbon compounds are bad conductors of electricity. Urea is a type of a chemical which is used as a pesticide or a biofertilizer. And glucose, as we are aware about, it is nothing but the smallest building compound or the smallest building component from which we derive energy or we get energy to do our day-to-day daily life. So chemical bonds in the carbon compounds, they do not produce iron, is the thing that we need to conclude from this section, that any carbon compound are the bad conductors of electricity. So the image alongside we can see a carbon atom, right? So this carbon atom overall has two rings, that is inner ring and outer ring, and within these rings there are electrons which are distributed in a specific manner and they revolve in this ring. These electrons revolve around a nucleus which has 6 neutrons and 6 protons, and in this ring, that is the inner ring, it has 2 electrons, and in the outer ring it has 4 electrons. So overall in any carbon atom it has 6 electrons. So any gas or any compound, in order to attain a stability, it is believed that it should attain a electronic configuration which is close to noble gas configuration. It means this inner shell or this inner ring is called as K ring. The outer shell or the next ring to the K is called as L. Apart from these two, there are also several other rings which are present in other atoms. So as the ring increases, it is called as K, then it is L, after L it is M ring, and later on it is N ring. Every ring has a specific capacity to hold electrons. Like in this case of carbon, K ring has a capacity to hold only 2 electrons. L ring has a capacity to hold 8 electrons. Therefore, since we can see in a carbon atom that there are only 4 electrons, that is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Therefore, this carbon atom is not stable. We require 4 more electrons to make this carbon atom stable. So, how this stability can be achieved? It can be achieved by these 3 following possible ways. First, it is by losing electrons. Second is by accepting electrons. And third is by sharing electrons. We will be studying this one by one, that how these individual ways and what is the way that carbon chooses to attain stability. So as we are aware about this image, this is nothing but a carbon image having 6 electrons, that is 2 electrons into the inner shell and 4 electrons into the outer shell. So we will study that how carbon atom attains stability, or whether it attains or not by losing electron. According to the noble gas configuration, it says that various noble gases have been noble gases are said to be noble because they are very inert, as in they are very stable and they do not readily react with any other metal or any other compound. So how does these chemicals, that is noble gas compounds, are more stable? One of the noble gas is the helium gas. As we can see about helium, it attains stability by keeping only 2 electrons in its outermost shell. So, if carbon want to attain stability, it can try to behave like this noble gas, which is as an example as a helium gas. Therefore, by losing electron, as in carbon atom already has these 4 electrons in the outermost shell. These 4 electrons cannot attain stability as it requires 4 more electrons to attain stability. But in carbon atom, in the inner shell, it has only 2 electrons. And as we can see in helium, it also has only 2 electrons. Therefore, instead of accepting 4 electrons, the carbon atom might decide to lose these 4 electrons such that there at the end only 2 electrons are left, which will be same as the helium noble gas. But there is a problem. Since it loses its electronegative ions, that is electrons, it gets C4 positive cation charge, which is a very heavy charge with respect to atomic size. Therefore, by losing 4 electrons at the same time, carbon in fact, instead of attaining stability, it becomes more and more unstable. Therefore, carbon doesn't have a solution by losing electron in order to attain stability. Now we will move to the next possible way. The next possible way is by accepting electron. Another type of noble gas is neon. In neon, as we can see in the innermost shell, that is the first shell, it has 2 electrons. So does our carbon has. In the outermost shell, it has 8 electrons, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is called as L shell. So as I said earlier, L shell has a capacity to hold 8 electrons, but our carbon atom has only 4 electrons. In earlier possible solution, we studied that by losing 4 electrons, it's not helping the carbon atom. So the carbon atom might think of adding 4 electrons to achieve stability. But here again there is a problem. As the overall charge of the carbon atom increases if it loses 4 electrons, in the similar manner, if it adds the 4 electrons, the net carbon charge will be -4, that is C4 minus ion. And again, this is a higher charge to the carbon atom with respect to its atomic size. Therefore, instead of attaining stability, the carbon atom instead moves towards instability. Therefore, even this solution is not readily accepted by carbon atom. Now we move on to the third, that is the last possible solution by how the carbon atom might attain stability. The last possible solution is by sharing electrons. As we knew that the carbon atom has these 4 electrons in the outermost shell. Therefore, he can try to share 4 electrons with other compounds in such that even that compound can gain 1 electron for carbon, and at the same time that carbon will also gain another electron in between from the another compound. So in this manner, both the compounds share a common bond, that is share a common electrons in between them. Because of this mutual connection, they form a bond that is called as covalent bond. Covalent bond is nothing but a 2 electrons being shared by 2 atoms. So in this example, we can see there is a carbon atom and there is a hydrogen atom. And in earlier slides we saw that each carbon atom has 4 electrons in outermost shell. Therefore 4 more electrons can be shared with the carbon atom. And as we are aware about hydrogen atom, since it has only 1 electron, so it requires 1 more electron to attain stability. So the bottom line is hydrogen requires 1 electron and even carbon atom requires 4 electrons. So if 4 hydrogen atom contribute their 1 electron to carbon, then carbon will get 4 electrons, and at the same time, since 4 hydrogen are forming a bond with carbon, the 4 outermost electron can be used by individual hydrogen atom to complete its outer shell. So in this way, that is by sharing the electrons, carbon atom can also attain stability. At the same time, another compound like hydrogen can also attain stability. Therefore, sharing of electron is the most feasible way by which any compound, any carbon compound will attain stability. Now we will be studying about covalent bond that has been formed by carbon atom. So covalent bond is present in all carbon atoms. So what is this covalent bond? Covalent bond is the chemical bond formed between any compounds which share two valence electrons or even more electrons in between two atoms. As we see in an earlier slide that how hydrogen and carbon are sharing bond or sharing electrons in between them in order to form a bond, and the bond which is formed in between these compounds is called as covalent bond. In order to represent these bonds on a paper, it is represented in these following three possible structures. First is by dot structure, second is by cross mark structure, third is by single line structure. We will be studying this one by one. First is a dot structure. Any covalent bond can be represented by a dot structure. As I see or as I said earlier that if electrons are represented instead of a circle, it is now represented as a dot. As we can see that this hydrogen has only one electron and a nucleus. Another hydrogen has only one electron and nucleus. It requires one more electron to attain stability. Therefore, these two hydrogen ions will form a bond by sharing these electrons. Therefore, as we can see now, even the first hydrogen molecule has two electrons and the other hydrogen molecule has also is having two electrons. So in this manner, by sharing, both the atoms can satisfy their needs for electron by forming a covalent bond. So these covalent bond can be represented in the form of dot structure. So the electrons that are shared between these hydrogen atom is drawn as a dot. A single dot represents a single electron being shared in between them in the form of covalent bond. As we studied of a dot structure, instead of a dot, any electron can also be drawn or represented in the form of cross mark, and the structure which it includes a cross mark in order to describe the structure of a covalent bond is called as a cross mark structure. As we can see, the one electron contributed from hydrogen atom is represented as X or a cross, and the another electron which is the another electron contributed from this hydrogen atom is again represented as X. So the X is nothing but electron which is being shared between these two hydrogen atoms and forming a covalent bond. It is similar as a dot mark structure. The only difference is instead of dot we draw a cross mark. And the third way to represent a covalent bond is by drawing a single line. A single line says that there are two electrons which are being contributed by this hydrogen and by this hydrogen atom. That is one from this and one from this. So in a single line means a single bond, a single covalent bond is formed between both the hydrogen atoms wherein two electrons are being shared. Instead of this single line, if there is a double line, it means another line has another 2 electrons. So overall the total count of electrons become 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, means total 4 electrons are being shared by any compound. But in case of hydrogen, it is only possible to share 1 electron, therefore they form only one single bond. This type of structure is called as single line structure. Now let us try to study hydrogen molecule in much more detail, as it is a simplest molecule in all throughout the elements present till now. So what is hydrogen molecule? As I explained earlier that any atom, this is like a random representation which is explaining various shell gradation present. Any atom has a nucleus and it has electrons which is revolving in these shells. So in any atom, the nucleus is in the center and along the nucleus there are electrons revolving. So they first form, the 2 electrons can be accommodated in the K shell, and following to K shell there is L, then M, and there is N. So K, L, M, N are the number of shells that goes on increasing, and every shell has its own capacity to hold electrons. That is, in K shell only 2 electrons can be accommodated. If another electron enters, then that electron has to move into the L shell. L shell has a total capacity of holding 8 electrons. As we go away from nucleus, the holding capacity of electrons increases. M shell has the holding capacity of 16. N shell has a holding capacity of 32. So in similar manner, every shell has a different capacity of holding electrons. So atom, as we are aware, there is a nucleus which has a single proton present in the nucleus, and revolving to this nucleus, that is in a K shell, it has only one electron. In order to attain stability, hydrogen requires one more electron so that a K shell satisfies the need for 2 electrons. Another examples of covalent bond is a carbon compound, that is methane. Since it contains carbon, therefore methane is also called as organic compound. So methane is nothing but a single carbon along with 4 other hydrogen atoms bonded with. So this example we have already studied, but this is a summarized version. As in, we can see in center there is a carbon atom which has 2 electrons in its innermost shell and 4 electrons in its outermost shell. It requires 4 more electrons, therefore it forms bond with hydrogen atom, since hydrogen requires 1 electron to complete its first shell with requirement of 2 electrons. Therefore these 2 electrons are being shared, and as we can see they form a bond. This bond can be represented in a dot structure, as we can see over here, or in a single line structure. Few of the other examples similar to methane are O2 molecule and N2 molecule, that is oxygen and nitrogen. Even oxygen elements, they share a bond, that is they share double bond, as we can see, and I already explained that these double bonds means every single line includes 2 electrons. Therefore if there are 2 lines, it means it has 4 electrons. So as we can count here, there is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Therefore they form a double covalent bond in between them. In case of N2 molecule, it shares 6 electrons. Therefore 1, 2 and 3 bond, that is triple bond, can be seen in nitrogen molecule. Why are we studying this carbon atom in so much detail? Because carbon is a very versatile element, as in this carbon atom has a most probable chances to form various megastructures. So what are these megastructures? That is, as we are aware about our DNA. DNA's simplest building blocks like adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine, they form the ladder of DNA, and this DNA goes on increasing as these minor compounds keeps on adding. These minor compounds or these building blocks are nothing but made up of carbon atoms. So therefore we can see that carbon atom is so important in order to building our DNA. Not only this, even about the protein structure, the main backbone, that is the main supporting or the skeleton of any protein, has a major component, that is carbon. Therefore carbon is a very vital role in our day-to-day life. In fact, millions of other molecules are also made just because of the carbon element. This means that carbon atoms come together in a large number to form extremely big molecules. So how is this formation exactly possible? It is possible because of covalent bonding, like whatever we studied earlier. Just because of these covalent bond formation, carbon atom is capable of bonding with each other and forming a several other bond, and thus elongating a chain of carbon atom. As we can see that this carbon atom has a single bond that is sharing 2 electrons with this, and similar a chain goes on. This chain can be present in various other form, that is in a branch chain format, wherein a single line chain as a branch, that is another chain starts from any of the middle of carbon, or it can form a ring structure. So similar, this process of making a chain by a carbon atom is called as catenation power or catenation. Catenation is nothing but the ability of carbon atom to form a chain or to link with each other. So because of this catenation power, carbon can form various forms of structure. What are those structures? Those structures are open chains, which includes straight and branch chain, or a closed chain, that is nothing but a ring structure. As we can see here, this is a open chain, as in a linear or a straight carbon chain can be seen. This open chain can also be present in a branched form, wherein another carbon chain starts linking here. So these, this and this is nothing but an open chain structure. But similarly, carbon can also be present as closed chain, that is as a ring format. So basically carbon links with each other in a such a way that it forms a closed ring structure. So this is called as closed chains of carbon atom or a ring structure. We will be studying these two structures one by one. First is a straight chain. Before beginning with a straight chain, let us try to study what exactly and how many carbons are required to form a chain. So therefore, if there is only one carbon present, then one carbon will bond to another 4 carbons, 4 hydrogen atom, and give rise to a molecule, that is CH4. If there is only one carbon, then the chemical name of that chain is methane. If there is another carbon atom forming a covalent bond with the first atom, then the chemical name is called as ethane. So as the carbon atom goes on increasing, the parent chain remains the same. That is, first it is methane. If there are 2 carbon, then there is ethane. If there are 3 carbon, then there is propane, then butane. Pentane has 5 carbon, hexane has 6 carbon, and the list goes on till 10 carbon. So it is called as decane. And in fact the list even goes farther. What about the branch chain? As I discussed earlier, branch chain are nothing but the carbon rings or the benzene rings. So they form a closed type of structures. So these closed type of structure, as we can see, the hydrogen atoms are bonded this way. They are not as bonded as a linear chain. In fact, they are bonded towards outward of the ring structure. So these are the some of the examples of circular or the closed ring carbon compounds or a chain compound. So we can see it is classified as saturated and unsaturated. Saturated means all the bonds present in any compound is a single bond. No other bond can be accommodated. But in case of unsaturated, if any of the bond is present in the form of double or triple, even if one double bond or one triple bond is present, then that compound or that hydrocarbon is called as unsaturated hydrocarbon. But if there is no double bond or there is no triple bond, then that compound or hydrocarbon is called as saturated hydrocarbon. Another example another noticeable example is about the isomerism. So what exactly isomerism is? Isomerism nothing but, like we can see here, we have 4 carbon atoms, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. To this we can see there is a methane group attached to the first carbon atom, and there is a methane group attached to the second carbon atom. In this example, both the methane groups are present on the same side. That is, if I draw an imaginary line over between these carbon atoms, then I can see 2 hydrogen atoms on the above side and 2 methane atoms on the below side of the carbon. But in the isomer form of these carbon atom, if I draw the similar parallel line in between this carbon atom, then I can see one methyl group present on upper side and one methyl group present on below, whereas one hydrogen atom present on upper side and one hydrogen atom below. So this shift or the change in position of one of the hydrogen with methyl group, that is, it get inverses and changes the overall structure, is called as isomers of each other. That is, the chemical constituent, chemical composition is the same, but the structure or the position of the compound changes. That is, both the example has 2 methyl groups and 2 hydrogen groups, which is attached to 2 carbon atoms, but the position of methyl group and hydrogen group attaching to the carbon atom is different. So these difference in these two compounds is called as isomerism, and the two compounds which has similar chemical formula but different structural formula is called as isomerism. And carbon is, as I discussed earlier, that they can also form a multiple bonds. That is, in case of ethane, it has only one bond. Ethene has 2 bonds, that is, they share 4 electrons, and ethine has 3 bonds. If there is a one bond, then any carbon compound is ended by writing ANE, be it methane, ethane, propane or butane. If there are 2 bonds between carbon atom, then the ending should be ENE. That is, it can be methane, ethene, propene or butane. If there are 3 bonds in between them, then the chemical compound is called as ethyne. That is, it ends with YNE. So it can be methine, ethine, propyne and butane. So these are the various examples that how any chemical compound can be written with respect to the presence of single, double or triple bond. If it has a single bond, then the ending should be ANE. If it has a double bond, then the ending should be ENE. And if it has a triple bond, then the ending should be YNE. And as I discussed earlier, that carbon atom is capable of bonding to 4 hydrogen molecules. Similarly, these hydrogen molecules can be replaced by any other groups. Like we can see in this first example, it is CH4. This is methane, in which a single carbon atom is bonded to 4 hydrogen atoms. But in the next example, we can see that one of the hydrogen atom is being replaced by one of the chlorine atom. That is, the place of hydrogen atom is taken away by chlorine atom. In the following next step, we can also see that 2 hydrogen atom has been taken over by 2 chlorine atom. The overall conclusion is the 4 places of hydrogen atom can be replaced totally by 4 unknown other chemical compound. This is the just summarized way of learning. Like we can see, it can be represented either by this circle and dot, or by simply dot structure, or by line structure. And this is the magnified version, as in whatever we studied till now with respect to ethane. And this is again the summarization of how straight chain and branch chain, and what are the different possible structures which are present in a straight chain of carbon and in a branch chain of carbon. Yeah, followed by after this we will be studying about the functional groups that are present in order to bonding with carbon atom. So what are the other functional groups that can replace the place of hydrogen atom in a molecule which has C and bonded hydrogen atom? So the hydrogen atom can be replaced by halogens, which are fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine, or by oxygen molecule, or by nitrogen, and even by sulfur. So in a table alongside we can see a halogen, that is chlorine, bromine, iodine. It can replace the position of hydrogen. Similarly, even oxygen for that matter, if there is alcohol, then in case of a single hydrogen atom, oxygen can get form linked between carbon, oxygen and then hydrogen. Together it forms OH group. Similarly, aldehyde, it bonds in a such a way that carbon being a tetravalent can form 4 bond. Therefore, this side a carbon element can form a bond with this carbon. So this shares one bond. Another bond is shared with this hydrogen molecule, and remaining 2 bonds can be shared with the oxygen molecule, giving rise to a aldehyde functional group, that is CHO. Similarly, even for ketone, carboxylic acid, ether, the oxygen molecule can form a bond with respect to carbon atom in numerous ways, giving rise to various functional groups, that is OH, CHO for aldehyde, CO for ketone, COOH for acidic or carboxylic group, etc. Nitrogens, when bonded with carbon atom, they form amines. So the atom of an element which replaces hydrogen atom is referred to as a heteroatom. Now we will study about the homologous series. The homologous series, it means a series of carbon atom with same functional group and can be applied throughout the common series. For example, if we study a methane group, since it ends with ANE, it means it has only single bond. So all the chemical structures following by methane, that is methane, ethane, propane, butane, it all the bonds whatever present in between them is a single bond. And if a functional group when attached to these single bonded chemicals, like for example hydroxyl group, that is OH is a functional group that is called as hydroxyl group. If this OH when attached to a methane, then it is called as methanol. Since OH group is nothing but an alcoholic group, that is a functional group, so the ending of alcohol, that is OL, is attached to a parent name, that is meth. Since it has only one carbon, therefore it is methane plus OL means alcohol, it means methanol. Similarly, for ethane plus OH as a functional group, that is alcohol, it is called as ethanol, and the list goes on. So these kind of groups, that is throughout the alkanes, that is ANE, methanol, ethanol or propane, butane, and all of these throughout the series, if we add a same functional group, then all the elements can be labeled in a similar fashion. So while labeling this homologous series, that is same series throughout the way, its chemical properties are similar but its physical properties are different. That is, as the chain goes on increasing, that is one carbon atom goes on adding, its boiling point and melting point goes on changing. Whenever a new carbon atom adds to a parent chain, additional 14 unit is a molecular weight of a carbon atom. So if new carbon atom adds to the existing carbon atom chain, then it adds a weight to up to 14 units. The general formula, like how to calculate what are the number of electrons or how many number of carbon or how many number of hydrogen would be present, so that can be calculated by these general molecular formulas. So in case of alkanes, that is methane, as we are aware that in methane there is one carbon atom and 4 hydrogen atom. But just in case if we forget about this information, then how to calculate? Consider this N molecule as the number of carbon atom. In methane, we know that there is only one carbon atom. Therefore, it becomes C1. Similarly, now we want to calculate what are the hydrogen numbers present in that methane. Therefore, since we know there is only one carbon atom, that is N is equal to 1, we substitute the same formula even in this N. Therefore, it becomes 2 into 1 plus 2, that is 2 plus 2, which is 4. Therefore, it can be said that in one carbon atom it bonds to 4 hydrogen atom, which is nothing but methane, CH4. In case of alkenes, it is CnH2n. In case of alkynes, it is CnH2n minus 2. N is the number of carbon atoms, and we substitute this same number on this N also. So this is the homologous series. As we can see, we just calculated that the number of carbon atom present in methane is 1, hydrogen is 4. So how it is calculated? This is the chemical structural formula of it. So the number of carbon atom is 1, the unit of CH2 is 1, and the boiling points are listed over here. So for the methane, we have only one carbon atom. For ethane, we have only 2 carbon atom and 6 hydrogen atom. So for example, if we forget about the number of hydrogen atom, then how to calculate it? Since we know about the number of carbon atom, we can try to insert this formula, which is common for all type of alkanes. So throughout this alkane group or throughout this homologous series, this formula can be applied. Let us try to read for ethane. Suppose we don't know about the number of hydrogen atoms. So we know that there are 2 carbon atoms. Therefore, it becomes C2H. 2 into 2 is 4 plus 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. It means it becomes C2H6. So this is the formula, that is C2H6. There are 6 hydrogen molecules, and this formula can be applied throughout the homologous series of alkanes. In similar fashion, the same formula can also be applied for alcohols, since the only oxygen molecule is added additionally. As we can see, the methanol, all groups says about the alcoholic group, that is OH group. Therefore, meth says about the first or the only one carbon atom, eth says about the 2 carbon atom, prop stands for 3 carbon atom, and all tells you about the alcoholic functional group. So in case of methanol, there is 1 carbon atom, 4 hydrogen atom, and since it's a all, therefore there will be 1 oxygen atom present. And in a structural formula, it can be seen that the 3 hydrogen atoms are bonded to these carbon atom, and the remaining 1 hydrogen atom is bonded via a bond formation with oxygen group. And this continues throughout the homologous series of alcohols, which can be called as methanol, ethanol, propanol, and butanol. In similar fashion, even alkenes can be calculated. Like for the formula for alkenes is CnH2n. So similar, these formulas or these values can be inputted in the place of N, and the following number of hydrogen can be calculated. If there is a presence of two covalent bonds, then the ending of any parent, that is eth stands for 2 carbon atom, that is C2. So the ending becomes ENE. ENE means in means double bond. So now let us try to study that how these chemicals are labeled, that is how these chemicals names are being set. So there are 2 systems, that is by or a common nomenclature, or by a specific systematic nomenclature, that is IUPAC. IUPAC is nothing but International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. The short form is IUPAC. So it is said that nomenclature can be done by 2 possible ways, that is by common nomenclature, that is by common names, and by IUPAC nomenclature. So we are aware that NaOH, the common name for this chemical is caustic soda. but by IUPAC nomenclature it is called as sodium hydroxide, since it has a sodium metal, that is Na, and OH group, which is nothing but hydroxide. So by common nomenclature it is called as caustic soda, and by IUPAC name it is called as sodium hydroxide. So how to write about the IUPAC nomenclature we will be studying. So in IUPAC nomenclature, any chemical compound is subdivided into three categories. That is, first it is a prefix, then there is a parent, then there is a suffix. So we will study these one by one. So first is to draw a structure of any compound. Let us take a simple compound like ethane. Since it has starting few letters tells you about the number of carbon atom, which is ETH. Eth means 2 carbon atom. Prop means 3 carbon atom. So as in this we can see it is PROP. Prop. Prop means 3 carbon atom, but it is ending with ANE. As I discussed earlier, ANE stands for alkanes. Therefore, propane it is alkane, that is a single bond, and it has 3 carbon atom. So as we can see in this, it has 3 carbon atom with single bonds. But similarly, as we go down the lane, here we can see it is a prop. It means 3 carbon atoms, but it is ending with ENE. It is ene. Propene, it means it belongs to alkene group, and alkene group has 2 chemical bonds. Therefore, the information what we get is prop means a parent name is prop. Prop means 3 carbon atom, and ene is a suffix which is added after the parent name, and it describes about the number of bonds present. It is alkene, it means there are 2 bonds present. Similarly, if we go to the next, it is prop, that is the parent name. It means there are 3 carbon atom, and it ends with YNE. It means it belongs to alkyne family. It means it has 3 chemical bond. So this is how the parent name and a suffix helps to tell about the information of any chemical compound. Another way is to study its functional group. Since I discussed that if we let us discuss this simple example, that is ethane. As we can see in this structural formula, there is 2 carbon elements present. Therefore, the parent name becomes eth. And since there are only single bonds, therefore it became ethane. But there is also present of this functional hydroxyl group, that is alcoholic group. Therefore the ending of alcohol, that is OL, gets replaced by E. Therefore it becomes ethanol, and it becomes a parent suffix total thing. So it becomes ethanol. Like we can see, this functional group is chloro, and it is the similar, it has 2 carbon atoms, so it is ethane since it has 1 single bond, but the functional group is chloro. Therefore this chloro is added as a prefix, that is first before the parent, prefix parent or parent suffix. So prefix is before the parent, suffix is after the parent. So prefix becomes chloroethane. Similarly, all of these chemicals can be labeled accordingly. Third rule of IUPAC nomenclature is give the carbon atom a specific number. Like suppose, as I can see, this is a carbon chain which has 3 carbon atom. Therefore the parent name becomes prop. Since it has single bond, therefore it becomes propane. But at the same time it has hydroxyl group attached to a second carbon atom. Therefore I need to mention about the position of this functional group. It becomes as propane. Propane means 3 carbon atom bonded with single bonds, and on a second position it has OL, that is hydroxyl group present. Therefore it becomes propane 2-ol. That is, it is a propane structure with a single bond. At a second position, that is at a second carbon atom, there is a presence of hydroxyl bond. Similarly, even other these chemicals can be studied. In this slide, we will try to study various chemical properties, that what are the reactions that are formed by studying a carbon atom, or what are the possible reactions possible with carbon atom. So first reaction or a chemical reaction is combustion. Combustion, we are aware, it means something that can be burned. So combustion is nothing when a carbon, when burned in presence of oxygen, it gives light and heat, and also a release of carbon dioxide gas. We know that even if we burn any of the paper, then it gives formation of fire. The fire gives us light and heat, and at the same time we can also see various black vapors are evaporating. These black vapors are nothing but carbon dioxide heat. In the reaction below, we can see that if the carbon in the presence of oxygen, if it is ignited or fired, then it gives rise to formation of carbon dioxide gas, heat and light. Similarly, any carbon molecule, for example methane, if since the hydrogen molecule also adds a burden with a carbon compound, therefore it requires more oxygen to burn it. So in presence of more oxygen, it gives rise to carbon dioxide, heat, light plus few water molecules, since we have hydrogen as a spare. And as the carbon chain goes on increasing, the water molecule and carbon dioxide forming molecule also goes on increasing. So here is a quick experiment time wherein we will study that how this combustion chemical reaction can be studied. So the procedure is that place one of the above chemicals. What are the chemicals? That is ethanol, acetic acid and naphthalene on a clean copper gauze at a room temperature and hold it on a flame. So when these ethanol, if we take it in a spatula or in a spoon, and if we try to burn on a burner, then what are the different observations? Is there any gas evolving, or is the color of flame changing? So what are these observations? So in case of ethanol, as we are aware, it is a saturated carbon compound. Saturated as in it has only single bond present in between them. Unsaturated are the compounds which has more than one bond, that is single or triple bond. So ethanol has only one carbon atom or one bond between carbon atoms. But while naphthalene, as we can see, there are three chemicals, that is ethanol, acetic acid and naphthalene. So ethanol is a saturated compound. It has only single bond. Naphthalene has more than one bond. It might be triple or double bond. And acetic acid has a carboxyl group and it is an unsaturated compound. So when saturated compounds burn, it gives blue flame, while the unsaturated compounds, they give yellow flame when burned, and also they give a black soot. Soot is nothing but when we like जब हम दिया जलाते हैं तब दिया जलाने के बाद जो ऊपर ऐसा काला काला चीज जो जमा हो जाता है, that small black particles that is collected on the surface of the diya is called as soot. So that soot is nothing but the settled carbon dioxide molecules. So with this experiment, we can study that how different chemicals, depending upon presence of single bond, double bond or triple bond, it can give rise to change in color of flame. That is only saturated compounds, that is compounds which have single bond, give rise to clean blue flame, or the compounds with double bond give rise to yellow flame. Next type of chemical reaction is oxidation. So in the process of combustion, in earlier reaction, we studied that how chemical or the carbon compounds, when fired in presence of oxygen, it gives rise to formation of water molecule, that is H2O, and carbon dioxide. So similarly, when these substances which can give oxygen to other substance are called as oxidants, or is called as oxidizing agent, means for example potassium permanganate has few oxygen molecules free, which can give these oxygen molecules to any other chemical compounds. So therefore potassium permanganate and potassium dichromate are the chemical compounds which are called as oxidants, and they can be used as an oxidizing agent which are ready to donate that oxygen group to any other carbon compound. The quick chemical experiment which can explain the phenomenon of oxidizing agent, that how these agents transfer their oxygen group, it can be explained by this experiment. So this experiment includes chemicals, that is ethanol, which is a saturated carbon compound, a dilute solution of sodium carbonate, which is oxidizing, which is a chemical, and a dilute solution of potassium permanganate, which is an oxidizing agent. So first we will take 2 to 3 ml of ethanol in a test tube, to which we will add 5 ml of sodium carbonate. We will warm it a little, and later on drop wise we will try to add this potassium permanganate diluted solution, which is our oxidizing agent. So what are the observations? We will be studying one by one. When we start adding potassium permanganate drop wise to the ethanol solution, potassium permanganate is pink in color. The moment we add it to ethanol, the pink color starts disappearing. So why is this pink color disappearing in the beginning? It is because that the potassium permanganate, which is pink in color, it readily donates its oxygen group by oxidation reaction. So the sodium carbonate accepts that oxygen group, therefore the potassium permanganate no more has its color, so it starts disappearing. But when all the sodium carbonate present in that test tube has accepted all the oxygen provided by potassium permanganate, there is no extra sodium carbonate left behind to accept the extra oxygen radicals. Therefore, after a saturation point, beyond a point, it is not used up, and the amount of oxygen becomes excess. Therefore, the pink color of potassium permanganate still remains as it is. So this is how oxidation reaction takes place. Another reaction which is possible by the help of carbon atom is nothing but addition reaction. So what is addition reaction? Addition reaction is when a carbon compound combines with another compound to form a product that contain all the elements in both the reactants. As in, if A reacts with B, then the resultant product will be AB, but not some other product, that is C. I repeat, if A compound reacts with compound B, the resultant product will be AB, which has all the compounds from both the reactants that is A and B. So such type of reaction is called as addition reaction. So when unsaturated compounds, that is any compounds which have double or triple bond, they undergo addition reaction to they become a saturated. The resultant product becomes a saturated compound. A quick experiment to trying to study addition reaction is as follows. So it requires iodine, bromine water, vanaspati ghee and vegetable oil. So the procedure is, first we will take few ml of oil in a test tube and add a few ml of iodine. Iodine is used to know how many double bonds are present in any compound. So this iodine will be added on vegetable oil and vanaspati ghee, and we will try to read that how the color of iodine or a bromine disappears or whether it persists. If the color disappears, it means it has unsaturated compound. Unsaturated compound means presence of double or triple bond. So the addition reaction of an unsaturated compound of iodine or bromine takes place simultaneously at a room temperature. Therefore, this reaction is also used to test that there are how many bonds present in carbon compound. So in case of vanaspati ghee and vegetable oil has many double or triple bonds, but in case of vanaspati ghee there are only single, that is saturated bond present, that is the only single bonds are present. Therefore the color of iodine and bromine won't change when added to vanaspati ghee, but it will change when it is added to vegetable oil since it has double or triple bonds. So in this manner we can try to study that how addition reaction, that is of addition of bromine and iodine to these compounds, give rise to change in color. Fourth type of chemical reaction is a substitution chemical reaction. Substitution chemical reaction means a reaction in which the place of one type of atom or group in a reactant is taken by another. That is, with this example we will try to study this definition. We are very much aware about this group, that is methane. It has single carbon atom and 4 hydrogen atom. One of the hydrogen atom can be replaced by chlorine atom in the presence of sunlight. Therefore, it forms CH3Cl, and the another Cl2 may say HCl will combine with the remaining replaced hydrogen atom to form HCl. So in this reaction, as we can see, one chlorine atom has replaced the position of one hydrogen atom. Since it has replaced the position of original atom, the reaction is called as substitution reaction. This reaction can go on till it totally replaces all the hydrogen positions to form CCl4. Now in the last type we will study what are the important carbon compounds, as in important carbon as in on an industrial scale. Ethanol and ethanoic acid are the two chemical compounds which are studied on a larger scale. So what is ethanol? Ethanol, as we can see, it's in this bottle, it's a colorless solvent, it is a colorless liquid and it is highly volatile in nature, as in if this bottle is kept open, all the solution will start evaporating even on room temperature. So at room temperature this liquid is colorless and its boiling point is 78 degrees Celsius. Ethanol is also called as alcohol or spirit. We know that spirit starts evaporating at a room temperature. It is soluble, that is it is easily able to mix in water in all proportions. Ethanol is also marketed with these plastic bottles. And the pH of ethanol is neutral. Ethanol is, as it is commonly called as alcohol, we know various side effects of drinking alcohol to a larger extent. So how does this exactly affect our central nervous system? During near our brain is protected by a thin membrane called as blood-brain barrier. So blood-brain barrier, as we can see, in our brain we have various neurons. These neurons helps us to transmit various signals from environment and help it to process to brain. So these neurons are attached to a blood vessel. The blood vessel, the gap between blood vessel and these neurons is called as blood-brain barrier. No of the chemical compound is capable of passing this barrier except alcohol or ethanol. So when we see any of the person who drinks excess ethanol or excess alcohol, that alcohol passes this blood-brain barrier and reaches even brain, because of which the central nervous system and the daily activities of that person changes. So the consumption of even small quantity of pure alcohol, that is also called as absolute alcohol, it can be lethal. Lethal can be dangerous and it can even cause death. Ethanol is also used in various cough syrups. Like after drinking a cough syrup, we get a cooling effect, or even we feel sleepy. So this is all because of ethanol, which is present in a cough syrup or in many of the tonics. So what are the chemical properties of ethanol? So ethanol, when reacted with any of the metal, it liberates hydrogen gas and forms sodium alkoxide salts. Like we can see over here, one of the metal is a sodium metal. Sodium metal is a highly reactive metal. So when this sodium metal reacts with ethanol, that is CH3CH2OH, this is ethanol. So when metal sodium reacts with ethanol, it gives to the rise of formation of sodium ethoxide and a hydrogen gas is liberated. Sodium metal is the only metal which is very soft and it can be cut even with knife. So we will do a quick experiment to understand that what is the reaction between sodium metal and ethanol. So if we add a sodium metal in ethanol, add 2 to 3 pieces of sodium metal and then try to collect the gas which is evolving, that we already studied is the hydrogen gas, and then try to warm that mixture uh, and collect the gases. So what are the observations? If instead of sodium metal, if we added magnesium metal, then the reaction would be different, as we know that magnesium is the less reactive material than sodium. Therefore the reaction rate, that is the time at which sodium reacts with ethanol, will be much faster than the magnesium, which is a slow reactive group, so it will also react slowly with ethanol, and the amount of hydrogen gas released by magnesium will be too less as with respect to sodium metal. Another chemical reaction of ethanol is dehydration reaction. Dehydration, it means removal of water molecule. So when ethanol is heated at a temperature of 170 degrees Celsius in presence of sulfuric acid, so it starts losing its water molecules, leading to formation of ethene. Therefore, sulfuric acid acts as a dehydrating agent. So as we can see in this reaction that this is the ethanol when heated at 170 degrees Celsius in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, it gives formation to ethene, that is eth means 2 carbon atom, ENE stands for double bond, ethene, along with removal of water molecule, that is dehydration. So therefore H2SO4, that is sulfuric acid, acts as a dehydrating agent. Next chemical compound apart from ethanol is ethanoic acid, which also has an industrial importance. So let us try to study what are the chemical properties of ethanoic acid. The functional group of ethanol was alcohol, that is OL. Similarly, the functional group of ethanoic acid is carboxylic acid. It readily reacts with base and ester. So we'll study the reaction of ethanoic acid with base. A reaction with strong base, ethanoic acid neutralizes the strong base to form salt and water. In fact, any neutralization reaction gives rise to formation of salt and water. If we have ethanoic acid, that is CH3 double bond COOH, when it reacts with a strong base like NaOH, it gives formation to sodium salt of ethanoic acid plus water. This experiment explains the same reaction, that is, if sodium carbonate powder is placed in this test tube, as we can see there is a test tube on a test tube table which holds this test tube, and there is a rubber cork which has this thin pipe which helps to collect the gas evolving during the reaction, and this gas can be collected in another test tube. So we have in this test tube few crystals of sodium carbonate, and to this we have added 10 ml of acetic acid. Now we will try to study what are the changes in this reaction. So as the acetic acid starts reacting with sodium bicarbonate, ethanoic acid reacts with a base salt, namely sodium carbonate, to form a salt, that is sodium ethanoate, water and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide that is been released is been collected by this pipe into another test tube, as we can see over here, and it converts the sodium carbonate into a lime water, that is a whitish liquid. The carbon dioxide dissolves into this test tube and it makes a lime water. Next reaction which is possible with ethanoic acid is with ester. So substances having ester as a functional group are formed by reaction between a carboxylic acid and an alcohol. So this is the quick example that how these experiments can be studied. So if a test tube with ethanol and glacial ethanoic acid is when it is reacted, that is carboxylic group and alcoholic functional group, when reacted it gives rise to the formation of ester. So ethanoic acid reacts with ethanol in presence of acid catalyst and ester, that is ethyl ethanoate is formed. This ethyl ethanoate, that is the reaction, when it gets completed, it gives rise to a very sweet pleasant odor or a smell. Therefore, the presence of ester can also be detected by presence or absence of this specific sweet odor or this specific sweet smell. So esters have sweet odor, and even naturally esters are also available or present in various fruits and flowers. Next we will study that what are the major macromolecules and polymers that are present. So macromolecules, which as we can see that these are the molecules which are formed with having carbon compound as their main compounds. So macromolecules are nothing but the number of known carbon compound which can be as large as 10 million. So we can see this is a complex macromolecule, and we can see there are small dots and sticks. So all of these are nothing but small molecules or carbon atoms which are bonded to each other in a very complex manner. So this gives rise to a large molecule. Therefore the molecule is called as macromolecule, and it can be as large as 10 million. And since the molecule is big, the molecular mass is also large. And this giant carbon molecule which is formed, many of these thousands of molecules, when they come together, they form macromolecules. So these are also called as polymers. Polymers means when many monomer come together, they form a polymer. These macromolecules are also present in nature, which is called as natural macromolecules. So what are these natural macromolecules? These natural macromolecules are nothing but polysaccharides, proteins that are present in order to build our muscles. Then nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are important in building our DNA and RNA structure. So we can see these are nothing but supporting pillars of living world. That is, it helps our life to sustain. So simple macromolecules like starch, like amylopectin, amylose. Starch is nothing but what we eat in the form of food, that is in rice, chapati, etc. A lot of starch is present. Cellulose is present in lot of vegetables, so it gives you fiber. Fibers are also present in chapati. Glycogen is a smallest macromolecule which is present in your muscles. So in this similar fashion, many of these macromolecules are also present from the natural sources. So they form a very important part of our life. Not only about natural macromolecules, these macromolecules can even be made by man. So these macromolecules are called as man-made macromolecules. Like we can see, this is a laboratoryically made silk. So this similar silk and rubber fibers can be tried to mimic the natural molecules and can be created by a man, which is called as a man-made macromolecules. Another type of example is rubber. As we know that in earlier times rubber was obtained from a plant sap. So when a plant is cut from its bark or a stem, then that stem releases certain sticky substance that is called as rubber. But when this rubber is mixed with sulfur, it gives an elastic property to this rubber to stretch. So this is a man-made process. Therefore, the macromolecules that are formed here is nothing but man-made macromolecules. Now next we will be discussing about the polymer. So what is polymer? A macromolecule formed by a regular repetition of a small unit is called a polymer. Like we can see, this is a ethylene monomer. Monomer means a single basic unit, that is ethylene. Ethylene, it means 2 carbon with a double bond and 4 hydrogen molecules. So when these many ethylene molecules, when they come together, that is they add together, they form a polymerization reaction and they give rise to the formation of polyethylene. Poly means many, ethylene means many ethylene coming together. So this compound is called as polyethylene. Polyethylene is nothing but the plastic bags that we use is made up of polyethylene. So if these monomers, that is the building blocks, when they are of same type, Like in this example, like it is ethylene. So when many ethylene come together, so ethylene monomer, when they are of same type, it is called as when they are of same type, it is called as homopolymer. But when these monomers are different, then it is called as heteropolymer, and the process is called as polymerization. As I discussed earlier, that when a single monomer is used, it is called as homopolymer, and when two or more monomers are used, it is called as copolymer. So in this we can see that how polysaccharides, polysaccharides like glucose, it is present in starch. Then in the form of cellulose, the glucose is present in wood. In proteins, we have amino acids, which are nothing but carbon compounds, and they form muscles, hair, skin, etc. DNA is our nucleic acids. The DNA is nothing but our genetic material, so it is present in our chromosomes, so which is again nothing but made up of carbon compounds. So like we can see in throughout our life, carbon is very important. Thank you for patiently listening my today's lecture. If any doubts and query, kindly contact me back.